Hello, and welcome to Women at Iowa, a place where the University of Iowa community can come together and take pride in the accomplishments of the women who call it home. Our guest today has played many roles. Born a small-town Iowa farm girl, then a European traveler, then a mother, and a worker who has served the University of Iowa community for 30 years. Please help me in introducing Jeanne Stoakes. Jeanne, so great to have you here.
Thank you, Kelly.
One thing that I found so compelling, none of our guests grew up on a farm in Iowa, which a lot of people, when they think Iowa, think that kind of small town background. How has that shaped how you think about life, work, your role as a woman?
I had such a great childhood on the quintessential Iowa farm, and I had all the animals. My dad was a wonderful farmer. He loved his animals and treated his animals well, and he was an organic farmer back in the day when that was not considered good enough to be an organic farmer. And I just was free to be myself and grow and enjoy childhood, not have to work. Of course, I wanted to work when it came into my teens to buy clothes and things like that I wanted, because my mom sewed my own clothes, and of course and she baked and cooked everything and canned, and we ate from the gardens, and so that shaped my life and wanting to work, but seeing my parents work so hard, but yet they loved their land and loved animals, and so when I turned 18, I wanted to work, and so I guess I was cavalier thinking that I wouldn't have to work, and
You'd have
that's
that farm
the difference.
lifestyle for your entire
Right,
life.
and I always knew I'd go to college, but I didn't realize that I would have to work in the economy that I would be in. I thought, well, I'd be in college, but that wouldn't necessitate a career or anything.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. You mentioned your mom, and I read a little bit about what you had written about her and how she was so... You said that you described her as being full tilt into the farm work. She was just as much a farmer as your dad was.
Yes, she was. She was on the tractor, and yet she had all her fowl, her chickens, her geese, her turkeys, her everything, and then she was there helping bale the hay and with my dad and bring in the straw and all the different things. She was there all the time, and I used to laugh at her when at night when she would sit down in the chair and fall asleep in front of, if we'd be watching something, and she'd fall asleep, and now I understand. You know, she was great, and she was not a farmer's wife. She was an equal farmer. Right. She was a partner.
How did that help you understand the role of women and the role of women in the world?
Seeing that she was totally equal, and I never knew there was anything not, like there wasn't a man and his wife. There was an equal partnership there always. Yeah. So.
Now, it took you a little while to come back to Iowa. I understand that you went first to school at Drake. Is that correct?
Drake, yes, that's correct.
You went to California?
I traveled to California to follow a boyfriend that I'd met at university and lived there for 9 months. And then I somehow got the idea to travel to Europe and went on Icelandic Airlines. We all want to get to know one another and help each other out, because I had a lot of people that would take me in and want to get to know me, and I also wanted to know the culture, the folk. That's what I consider the real folk, would be the people of Europe that I met. And then I actually traveled through Sicily to Malta, and then to northern Africa, and on a peanut boat to Spain for 6 days on the Mediterranean. And I actually at the time was on a lark, actually didn't know where I was at some point, and then went back to Spain. But it was great. I worked my way around, stopped and worked, and then traveled when it was time to. When
How
I
did
had
you
enough
find
money
those
to.
jobs? Where did you go to work?
Well, I went over with so much money and I really didn't plan anything.
Yeah.
My life is kind of like that. It's chaotic. Always has been. Well, since I left home. And so, what?
So how did you find those jobs? Did you just introduce yourself to different employers? How did you?
Well, I got to Frankfurt like at 5 a.m. and thought I would speak my German that I knew and just get away around, and boy, was I surprised. And I just wasn't planning on running out of money, because I didn't even think about the money issue, that you need money to live wherever you are. And so somebody suggested to go to the personnel office for the military bases, and there's a lot of military bases in Germany. So I thought, okay, sure. And I went and I became a waitress at the officers' clubs and the NCO clubs, and that was my introduction into military life, and I learned a lot, and
That's incredible.
And as a waitress, and they got paid once a month, and you knew the days that they'd get paid, and you'd get large tips. But some of the waiters and waitresses, it's a real honorable job to be a wait person, and I learned a lot from people in Europe that take that very seriously, and they're very professionals as wait staff. And but I was just there on a lark, and really appreciated the military people, though.
Was it pretty equal in terms of male and female ratios for the wait staff at the officer clubs?
No, it was mostly women, but the women were from all over Europe and different. So I really got to know some Lebanese and Bulgarians and different women that were there, and it was just wonderful, just a wonderful experience meeting these people.
And when I was reading a little bit about you, you used the term sisters to describe other women in the world, and that you kind of came to understand that you are connected with all the other women.
I think, right, exactly. I think that I really got the sisterhood thing in the 70s, though, when I started reading different books with the female eunuch, the Gloria Steinem, the Marilyn French, the realizing that women are not competition. As my being raised in the 50s and 60s, I realized that they are sisters, and they are not your enemies. We are sisters. And so ever since then, I've changed. If I ever was thinking that, which I never thought. I'm just a common person with everyone else.
Did you meet any close friends when you were working there at the wait staff? Anyone that kind of sticks out in particular?
No. I think just a lot of different people. Who knows? In this day and age, Facebook. Somebody will look me up on Facebook, and I'll remember who they are. That's happening too much these days. But no, nobody that sticks out. There's one young woman that I did meet, and from California, and then we shared living on a boat on the canal in Amsterdam, and worked in this factory where we put together needle craft packages and stuff. That was cool. So
that's incredible.
Oh, and then we travel and went to the Isle of Wight, and traveled there and saw Jimi Hendrix's last performance, and Joni Mitchell was there, and they had a lot of those open air concerts at the time. So, but meanwhile, I felt safe hitchhiking and traveling around in that time, in that era. And then I came, I don't know when it started, that I became fearful of hitchhiking. No longer was that, when I came back to the States, and I think it was that one picture on the front of Mother Jones magazines of the girl that was holding up her hand and her arm or something, and she'd been attacked, and her arm was chopped off or something. And I just remember somehow it wasn't fun to hitchhike anymore.
Right. So you think that if you were coming of age in this day and age, do you think you'd still make that trip over to Europe and
Oh, of course. I go wherever. I always look for the odd museums, the odd places to go now. I mean, there's the Menopause Museum in Maryland that I've heard about on NPR. I'm such an NPR fanatic. I hear everything on NPR and all the different places, and I seek them out. And oh, sure, so cool. Sure. My husband and I, we were traveling in Georgia, and we came to Savannah, and we went and gotten some brochures there, and we heard about Sapelo Island, where the Gullah, the Geechee, we'd heard this woman on NPR reading from her book, and so we thought, we'll take a boat over there, and we stayed there for a week, and the Gullah that lived there and trying to keep their heritage, and on the island, you can't get back only like every 3 days or something. The boat goes, and so that was so awesome to be on Sapelo Island. If you're ever in Georgia,
Sapelo Island.
Sapelo Island, it's a wonderful place.
Incredible.
So, but I always seek out the odd places to go and check out and that kind of thing.
Well, what brought you back then to Iowa after your crazy European tour? Okay,
so it came back and to the States and lived, just traveled around, and that was the idea. And then the boyfriend and I were on our way to the Rainbow Gathering in Colorado, and we stopped in Iowa to see my parents, and we thought, oh, this will be fun, in our van that we were picking up hitchhikers all over, you know, going to the Rainbow Gathering. And we stopped and went to the Rainbow Gathering and came back, and the boyfriend thought, oh, this would be great to live in Iowa, you know, and I thought, that isn't where I thought I wanted to live. Right. And so were lucky enough to live on my parents. They had an old farmhouse and some farmland they were renting up the road, and we took up living there, and we took up growing vegetables and soybeans, and sold to some co-ops, and carrots, an acre of carrots, and some sunflower seeds, and all these. And so we were coming to Iowa City to meet, you know, to sell to some to the co-op and the Maharishi University in Fairfield, and met some people, and then the boyfriend left, and the people disintegrated, and the farm disintegrated. I didn't really want to live communally. That wasn't for me anyway, and moved to Iowa City. And I had a son with the boyfriend, and we came to Iowa City, and the rest is history. Started doing building grain elevators. That was a job. Really? $3.75 an hour for building these concrete grain elevators you see around in Iowa, small towns.
Did I hear of somebody?
And building grain elevators, and they called slip forms, and you start at the bottom, and you work about 8 days. And I shoveled mud, the concrete, and I went from 7 to 7 at night to 7 in the morning, shoveling concrete, and there was re-rod and different. Just look at a grain elevator someday, you know, when you're around and
appreciate the work that it takes.
Yeah, and you go on these crews, and then you can go on and the company can send you on another one. But we camped out and had this little. Little community of people camping out in tents. And so my husband of today, that's where we first started together doing these grain elevators. And so we decided, and then I had my son, and so we decided that we wanted to live near Iowa City, because he was already living in Iowa City. He'd come here and from Ohio, and so we always loved the country, he and I. So we moved outside of Iowa City and lived this is our third place, and since '82, where we are now, and have wonderful vegetable gardens and a wonderful life. And I started at the university thinking, well, I was got to be with my boys as they were babies, modeled at the art department with being pregnant for the art classes. That was a university. That was something I could do. And then I had did some child care at my home, and what can I say? That was a wonderful experience. And then in 1979, in November, I started working at the university in the art department, and as a secretary. And I thought, oh, I'll just do this for a while. I won't need to do this very long. I'll get back home, get to be a full-time, mom, a full-time homemaker, because that's where my head was still, from the 50s, mind you.
Where you had grown up in that.
Yeah, right, thinking I would be that. And then it became serious work. One had to keep working because then the boys needed things and the wonderful sons.
Was that hard for you to realize that you had to keep working? Or
yeah, it was. Even though I loved being around a university. This university is a wonderful environment. Iowa City is a great place for lots of free things to do for children. It's a wonderful, environment. I still had to bring in the bucks, and it was hard. I complained a lot about it. I thought, I was miserable, but even though I was happy with people all the time at work, but I still had this desire that I wasn't, the husband has to earn the money, but I definitely became aware of that. I'd say, maybe about 10 years into it. Yeah.
How do you feel about your work now?
I love it. I really do.
Yeah?
I love Amy Margolis, my boss. She's great. And I love working in the writers that come, and I'm a voracious listener to books on the e-audio and books on CD and magazines, and all the writers in this community has, and can't get enough reading. And I even took a class on food writing.
Really?
With Faith Ariele, and that was fun. And this town is just incredible.
Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about what you do in terms of your job?
Okay. I've always been a secretary. I'm very proud of being a secretary. They've tried at different times. People thought, change it to assistant or some professional, and then the whole Secretary's Day is another thing. I mean, that's another story. I'll tell you about that. But what I do is people call to register, and I try to help them get set up for their classes, and they come in June and July.
Workshop.
No, this is the Iowa Summer Writing Festival, which is the non-credit program out of the Division of Continuing Education.
Yeah.
And people, adults that are have day jobs too, come to write and take time off for themselves and write for a week or a weekend in the summer. And I think it's the 23rd year it's been, and it's wonderful to be a part of that. And because it's always something new, and a small office that we have, and it's the busy time, and I feel good being a part of that. So I feel like I can contribute. And to me, that's important. As long as I'm contributing, that's good. And so
30 years at the university, you mentioned, I want to go back to what you said about Secretary's Day. You told me a little bit of a story about when you started noticing Secretary Day around campus.
Yes.
What did you...
Well, you'd go downtown on Secretary's Day, and then you would see all these men with these women eating lunch, and that would be them taking the women out to lunch, and you just get so sarcastic and cynical about it, and you just, they'd give you flowers, and you make a big deal, and buy the card, and that would be on your desk, and it'd be, we're supposed to feel all good about being a secretary, and then they changed it to Administrative Professionals Day, and then they kept playing around with it and giving us maybe a day to go listen to a motivation speaker or something, and it was just like a joke. And then when they started getting National Bosses Day, that's when, and I didn't mind Secretary's Day when the TAs and the graduate students would bring me something, because they really got excited, and I really loved that.
Yeah.
To me, that was genuine. But when the boss would say, have the wife go and get something for the secretary, it just, it was awful. It was just and unpleasant. And so now, one of the young students came in one day in April, I think it's April 26th or something, and said, happy Secretary's Day. And I did a double take, and she said, yeah, it's Secretary's Day. And it was so cool, because I didn't mind her telling me that. So anyway, that's part of the joy, is being in the university around the young people, keeping young, and so.
How have you noticed that, so as a secretary, have you noticed in the past 30 years the mix between men and women in positions like yours?
That is what, if there's one thing that we need more male secretaries. I mean, like in the 1800s, men were the secretaries for the presidents, and that was an honor, just like the professional wait staff in Europe. You know, it's considered, and that's what, the same thing with, at this university, we have PhD facilities management, facilities people, you know, pushing brooms and such, and never do we disrespect anybody's job, you know, anybody's job. And that's the whole thing with feeling good about being support staff. I don't mind being called support staff because that's you know, I feel good about that. And I think we're all support staff of each other, and that's the way it should be.
That's a great way.
No one's job is any higher than any other job. So that's what my feeling about secretaries.
Now, as we're going in, University of Iowa community is pretty familiar with some of the economic problems that are happening on campus. We've got to deal with rearranging the budget because of flood funds. We have an economic recession. Now, I had one of our committee members is very interested in hearing your perspective as to, you've been at the university for many years. How did the university handle the recession in the 1980s in terms of the way it worked with its staff? Were there any big changes? Was it not very noticeable?
Well, not very noticeable to me. No, I don't recall. I don't recall any great changes. I do remember I thought it was the 90s though, where there were a lot of jobs that were being cut, and then people were bumping people, and that was a bad atmosphere for many departments, and it was so unpleasant. And so I follow every day practically what's, you know, being talked about with the economic times now. I don't remember any definite movement on cutbacks then. So maybe I was oblivious, you know, and just doing my job and trying to do the best I can.
Right. So, and you haven't felt any particular pressures now, currently?
No, I know there's some offices where they're becoming, they're no longer needed, and that's so sad. You know, they come in and say there's different people that were no longer needed, and you go, wow. You know, and what I feel about that is we all can find ourselves in that. So we just have to be prepared in a lot of ways. Like I said, like I went and got a degree in social work or sociology, and I never dreamed that I would be doing high school skills, which is typing and no longer too much typing, of course, but. I think we all just have to rise to the occasion and be prepared to do other things in our life, and that's the way it is, and go on. I mean, we all are capable of having 2 or 3 different careers or 3 different things that we do, and I don't plan on ever stopping. You know, I think there's something else down the line that I'll be just as excited about, because I think we're always learning. We always must learn. We always must volunteer. And we never stop. So,
do you look forward to an era of retirement, or do you think you'll be pushing that out for a while?
I don't think that is possible. You know, I just don't think that's possible for some of us. I'm concerned about health care, so that is one thing that I'm just not sure about. If I'm lucky, every day I'm happy to be working. I really am, and I have the health care, and I have the benefits that this university has, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate there was a union that started in '82, I think, an AFSCME. I'm a happy member of AFSCME. I think it was '82, and I think that's needed in all work settings to unions be able to be a part of it, and everybody come to the table together and work out the problems, and I think they can be worked out. I think next year at this time, things will be better.
Yeah. Let's hope so.
So, yeah, hope. Yeah.
Looking at these 30 years that you've been on campus.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Now, what is, looking kind of beyond the scope of work and looking in general, how have you seen the university change, and in particular, how do you think it's changed for women on campus?
Oh, there's definitely a shove and a push to get more women in more top positions. It's just great. And there's been departments where haven't gone willingly getting women in the departments, and I was on the council on the status of women in the early 80s with wonderful people.
I was on the council too.
Oh,
years ago.
Oh, cool. I love it with wonderful women like Jean Jew and Jean Martin and Sue Buckley and all these, Dolores Nesbitt and all these heavy hitters. So this campus is I want to see it more diverse in every aspect. And I love that one fellow in the registrar's office that really went to get things for men and for the parental leave. And so I just think more equal in the job, but we're all, I think it's more, and even in this university setting, it's more about class sometimes than it is a certain gender or that kind of thing. I like that the women's studies is becoming transgender studies and those kinds of things. That is happening. That's awesome. And I can't think of, it's just a great campus. I can't think of any one thing that I'll think about it tonight. And I'll say, oh, I should have said that. Okay.
So have you seen then an increase of female supervisors, or your boss currently is a woman, right? The woman that you work for?
Yes, yeah.
Would that have been something that would have been kind of different or strange back when you started?
No, not for that particular job. But I think it'll get more equalized as more men are doing the jobs and more women more women in different jobs, and it'll just equal out. I remember Carol Scott Connor, who's a surgeon, reading about her on the Be Remarkable on the how when she first became the head of surgery, and how her road up to that was just awesome to read, because she's a writer. She takes a lot of classes, and she's just this incredible woman. So it's more about, if we had a earthquake in Iowa and then we'd all be in it together, and we were in the tornado together and the flood together. So it's not really thinking about the women and men separate, it's just, we're just trying to get it better.
All common people, as you said.
We are. I have this women as common as a loaf of bread, and we will rise. And it wasn't
really
a feminist thing, even though I consider myself, I have it framed. And it isn't necessarily a feminist thing, although I consider myself a feminist first. I still do. And I have these 3 sons and this all men, and I did have in the household. And but they're pretty far thinking, I think, too. So
great.
It's good.
Now, you had mentioned earlier in the interview, and I wanted to get back to this, some of the reading that you've done that really inspired the way you think as a woman. And one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is to recommend a book or a couple of books to our audience members that will help them understand the way you think about your life as a woman.
Well, I loved Deborah Rodriguez's Kabul Beauty School. I mean, I was reading all the Kite Runner and all the books by Khalid Hosseini, I think it is. And so then I came upon that book, and it was just, I couldn't put it down, and it just made me want to go to Afghanistan. And those women are so close in Afghanistan over there, and they've had so many struggles, and they're such fighters. It just blew my mind. And so I just want us to, that was a good one. That was one of the books. Jodi Picoult, she is incredible. I'm reading, she's Change of Heart was one, and then I can't remember all her books. Sue Miller, Marge Piercy. She's an old-timer that I've read. Woman on the Edge of Time was an incredible, like, science fiction book that was thought-provoking. Sue Monk Kidd, The Secret Life of Bees.
Yeah, I've read that one. You had also told me you enjoy, at the same time as you enjoy reading Gloria Steinem, you also enjoy
Martha Stewart. I love Martha Stewart. She's so cool because after all, she went to, she's cool. She's cool. And Amy Sedaris is a homemaker book too that she, can't think of her book right now, of course, but.
What really strikes you about Martha Stewart and Amy Sedaris' making books?
Because you can make a home out of anything. Because like I said, I lived in tents. I lived in a panel truck. First when I was, you can have Martha Stewart, she has these great photographers. And she has all these beat up looking tin cream cans that my mom and dad would have had. And she puts them, places them, and I go, wow, I have that. I could do that. And then Amy Sedaris is just the total opposite, but she's so great. And so I just think Martha Stewart is the queen of, I don't know. I love recipes. I love cooking sometimes. I don't like to, that's the one thing with working, getting back to those early 80s where I was miserable. Because see, even though intellectually you're with your partner and he thinks, that men do these things and women do, and we should share.
Right.
Still, somehow, when I came home, I was the one that fit into, making sure we all ate and everything. And I would hate that. And I tried to get everybody in the household to cook. And so even as far down as my youngest son at the time, even though we had one night that he had to cook, and I really tried that. And so that was part of it was the home life surrounding that made me unhappy because of all the stresses and the things that I had to do and get the,
Even though you're bringing home the bacon, you also have to literally cook that bacon when you're home.
Yeah, right. And think of balanced meals and getting the things ready for the money for the children to take to school that they needed and all those things. And that somehow fell on me, although he was doing all those things when the vehicle broke down, and because we commuted a lot, of course, every day. He's the one that would naturally do that. So as I look back, it's okay, and then it's okay. Nothing does one take seriously in this life, and you have a good sense of humor about everything. I think that's what one does. About things.
So I like that humor bit. Kind of going along that. What is your advice then to a woman who is working 30 to 40 hours a week and taking care of that family? What would you say to them?
Just make sure that you have conversations all the time and communications with your children, with your partner, and no matter if it's just like just always communicate and laugh about something, and you can get angry, but you just look at each other and laugh or something, and just always have humor in your day. Even as something as I hear on like I said, I'm a junkie for NPR and WSUI, and I heard this morning about the service that the medical students talking about how the bodies that are donated and how they treasure that, and how they talked about when first time they saw the body and how honorable that is to donate your body. And I said, well, I'd like to do that because I'm into recycling, so might as well recycle the body too. So life is just what you make it. You can't get too serious about it. You can't get offended. There's just too many other things that we need to think about than getting offended if you're not called Ms. or not. So
as we're kind of nearing the end of the interview, I like to ask our audience members where they think they'll be, where they think you're going to go in your career path, because you've had quite a great career at the university.
Yes, I have.
Where do you think you'll go?
I'll work as long as Amy will have me. As long as I will continue to work. We have huge gardens. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of organic foods needed. There's always something one can do and contribute, and one can live on a lot less money. I think that when you work full time, you tend to eat out more, and you tend to not cook as much, and eat, and you spend more when you eat more. And I still drive into town, and I wish there were a train coming out closer to me. I'd take that in a heartbeat. But just riding in, I haven't gotten to ride the university van, which I should, you know, but I do, you know, I still ride in, and I look at around me on Interstate 80, and I see one person's cars, people driving. So there's always, what I see is my being in the country more, and if I do retire, if I can't imagine, but I think I'll always be doing something in the home, trying to be in, you know, making a living at the farmer's market or something, you know, and living on less. So,
do you have an ideal, like a dream career, a dream job that still exists out there for you?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm organized enough to do it. Like, I have chickens. You know, I have chickens. I think it'd be great because people need organic chickens and turkeys and things like that. I think it'd be great to raise those, as my parents did. They at a certain time of year they sold their turkeys when the pheasant hunters would come up from Missouri and pheasant hunt, and then they would have all these turkeys, and they'd end up taking a turkey or two home. And so I could see doing something like that. And there's always something I'll think of. I'll figure something out.
You've had quite an incredible range of jobs. You're making the little needle packet.
Yep, that's
working
right.
as a waitress.
Man. Yeah, that was right. And
is there one that's been your favorite?
Boy, that's wow. Let's see.
Or how about one that we haven't even talked
the
about?
departments, I can't. I mean, I loved all the people in the departments. I've worked in like 5, and I love the political science. I love art and art history. I used to type, so I type papers, you know, for people for their MFAs and their MA, and I had some of their artwork back when they were students, which is when the best artwork I think comes from the people. And no, there is no one job that I can think of right now at this moment that I love, but I think. No, I can't think of anything special. I don't think I'd ever be a waitress again because my feet wouldn't let me and my knees. You know? But no, I'm just okay being whatever comes next. Yeah.
So looking at the university and the university's look in terms of what you've offered it, what do you think they'd be missing if you didn't decide to come back here and devote 30 years of your life here?
Oh my God! Oh, I think a person that in this day and age you call and I answer the phone, and they wait because they're not used to a human voice, and I just still think that is so important because I really take the time to help people, and as simple as answering the phone and helping people because they say, "Oh, this is a real voice," and I go, "Yeah." and they've been around all these different departments, and I really try to help them solve their problem. So I think that, and I loved working in the Office of International Education, and all the international students. I just think that I really give myself to and I try to read as much about the local scene so I can offer people that knowledge about the community around us, because I think that's so important of being a person that just doesn't work.
Truly an ambassador of the university. To students.
I'm just one of the people. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. Well, is there anything else that you want to tell our audience that I haven't touched upon, or something that you think is very important that you want to be known in your her story?
Oh, I like that word. That is like back when I was learning sisterhood. Her story, that's wonderful. No, just to keep on learning and keep on realizing that we're men, women, we're all together. That's really what it's all about.
Thank you very much for coming on our show. I greatly appreciate having you. And thank you for tuning in to Women at Iowa. And please check out our next show. Thank you.